For most of human history, we believed one thing about fire that felt unshakable. Only we could use it. Not lions, not dolphins, not the great apes we share 98% of our DNA with. Fire was the line between us and everything else. The thing that made us human. The discovery that lifted our species out of the dark and into civilization. We did not simply discover fire. We claimed it, made it ours, built an entire mythology of human exceptionalism around it. Then someone started watching what the birds were doing at the edge of a bushfire in northern Australia, and filmed it, and published it in a peer-reviewed journal. And everything we thought we knew about which species could use fire as a tool had to be quietly, permanently revised. 3 species of Australian raptors, birds of prey, have been scientifically confirmed to pick up burning sticks from the edge of an active wildfire, carry them in their talons or beaks, fly to unburnt dry grassland up to several hundred meters away, and deliberately drop them. The stick lands in the dry grass. The grass ignites. Small mammals, lizards, and insects erupt from the burning cover in panic. The birds eat. This is not a metaphor. This is not an exaggeration. This is documented, peer-reviewed, published in the Journal of Ethnobiology in 2018, confirmed by firefighters, Aboriginal rangers, and field researchers across Australia's Northern Territory, Western Australia, and Queensland. And here is the part that stops people completely. Aboriginal Australians have known about this for at least 40,000 years. It is in their songs. It is in their sacred ceremonies. It appears in their oral history across dozens of distinct language groups spread across thousands of miles of northern Australia. They named the birds. They called them Firehawks. They told the scientists exactly which species to watch, exactly where, exactly when. And for decades, the scientific establishment called it a legend. "We're not discovering anything," led author of the 2018 paper and geographer at Penn State Altoona. Most of the data we've worked with is collaborative with Aboriginal peoples. They've known this for probably 40,000 years or more. What took science until 2018 to confirm? Indigenous knowledge had documented for longer than the Egyptian pyramids have existed. This is that story. Firehawk is not a single species. It is a name given by Aboriginal communities in Australia's Northern Territory to a group of raptors observed deliberately spreading fire. The confirmed species are 3: the Black Kite, the Whistling Kite, and the Brown Falcon. The Black Kite, Milvus migrans, is one of the most abundant raptors on Earth. Graceful, dark-winged, with a forked tail that makes it instantly recognizable in flight. It is found across Africa, Europe, Asia, and Australia. In northern Australia, it gathers around bushfires in flocks that can number in the thousands. Witnesses describe the sky above a fire front turning dark with them. The Whistling Kite, Haliastus fanurus, is an Australian native, named for its descending whistle call. Slightly larger than the Black Kite, pale-bellied, a generalist predator that eats almost anything it can catch. The Brown Falcon, Falco berigora, is a medium-sized falcon, highly adaptable, found across most of Australia. It is perhaps the most behaviorally flexible raptor in the country, a bird that has evolved to exploit a remarkable range of hunting opportunities. What these 3 species share, beyond their confirmed firehawk behavior, is precisely what makes that behavior possible. They are all large enough to carry a burning stick. They are all smart enough to understand the relationship between fire and fleeing prey. They are all common enough at fire fronts that their behavior could be observed repeatedly across decades and multiple independent witnesses. And they are all critically present at fires in such numbers that a behavior observed occasionally by individual birds, when performed simultaneously by thousands of them, turn a controlled burn into something that crosses fire breaks and changes the direction of a blaze. Aboriginal rangers in the Northern Territory have known this for decades. They factor it into their fire management planning. When they set a controlled burn, they watch the raptors. They know the birds can carry embers across fire breaks and restart fires in areas that were supposed to be safe. This is operational, practical, life and safety knowledge. It is not mythology. It has been guiding land management in northern Australia for generations. Here's what the confirmed behavior actually looks like. An active wildfire is moving through dry savanna. The fire front is loud, bright, and thick with smoke. At the edge of the fire, and in some accounts, directly within it, black kites and brown falcons are hunting. This is normal raptor at fire behavior. It happens in Australia, West Africa, Papua New Guinea, Brazil, Florida, and Texas. Birds are not stupid. They understand that a fire front flushes prey. Small mammals run. Snakes break from cover. Insects rise in panicked clouds. The raptors simply position themselves where the food appears. But some of the birds do something that goes beyond positioning themselves at the fire front. A bird lands near the edge of the burning area. It picks up a stick, smoldering, still carrying flame. It grips the stick in its talons or holds it in its beak. It takes off. It flies sometimes just a few meters, sometimes several hundred meters, to unburnt dry grassland away from the main fire front. It drops the stick. The stick lands on dry grass. The grass catches. A new fire starts. The bird, and often several others who have followed it, positions itself at the edge of this new fire front and waits for the prey to run. The 2018 paper documents both solo attempts and cooperative attempts, multiple birds working together, carrying sticks to the same area, as if coordinating the ignition of a new hunting ground. Observers describe repeated trips, a bird carrying a stick, dropping it, returning to the fire, picking up another, carrying it further. This is not accidental. The researchers were specific on this point. There'd been a competing theory that birds near fires sometimes accidentally picked up twigs in the confusion, realized their mistake, and dropped them. The 2018 study, drawing on decades of eyewitness accounts from people who had spent their careers working in and around Australian bush, concluded clearly that the behavior demonstrated intention. The birds were not making mistakes. They were making fire. The implications of this, stated plainly, are staggering. For decades, the use of fire as a deliberate tool was considered uniquely human. It was not just a biological fact. It was a cultural cornerstone, a piece of our species' identity so fundamental that it appeared in everything from religious creation, narratives to scientific accounts of human cognitive evolution. We mastered fire. That mastery was part of what made us us. The Firehawk breaks that claim, not completely. The raptors are not making fire from scratch. They are not striking flint or rubbing sticks. They are using an existing fire as a source and transporting it to a new location. That is a meaningful distinction, but it is also a distinction that places Firehawk behavior in the same category as every human use of fire for most of human prehistory, carrying and transferring a flame that already existed, rather than generating one from nothing. The tool is fire. The behavior is intentional. The purpose is hunting, and the animal doing it is not human. Every other confirmed example of non-human tool usage: chimpanzees using sticks to extract termites, dolphins using sea sponges to protect their snouts while foraging on the seafloor, crows bending wire into hooks, involve solid objects, static tools, things that do not change or spread or multiply on their own. Fire is different. Fire is alive in a sense. It grows, spreads, consumes, changes its environment irreversibly. The Firehawk is not using a tool. It is deploying a force. Mark Bonta and his co-authors were careful in how they framed this. They did not claim the raptors fully understand fire the way humans do. What they documented was intentional behavior, observable, repeatable, purposeful actions that consistently produced a predictable outcome that benefited the bird. Whether there is deeper cognitive understanding behind that behavior, whether a black kite knows what it is doing in any meaningful sense, is a question science cannot yet answer. What science can answer is this: the behavior is real, it is intentional, and it has been reshaping the Australian landscape for longer than recorded history. That last point deserves its own moment. If Firehawks have been deliberately spreading fire across northern Australia for thousands of years, and the Aboriginal record suggests they have been doing it for at least as long as humans have been there, then they are not a curiosity at the margins of Australian ecology. They are a force within it, a non-human agent that has been actively shaping the distribution and frequency of fire across the savanna for millennia, independently of anything humans have done. The Australian savanna is one of the most fire-adapted ecosystems on Earth. Its plants, its animals, its soil biology, everything is calibrated to fire, dependent on it, structured around its cyclical presence. The Aboriginal peoples of northern Australia have practiced sophisticated fire management for tens of thousands of years, using controlled burns to maintain habitat, encourage new growth, and manage wildlife. This has produced a landscape that is in some ways a co-creation of human and fire. But the Firehawks predate the humans, or arrived with them, and have been doing their own version of fire management. Chaos. Predatory, self-interested, across the same landscape for the same span of time. The ecology of the Australian savanna has been shaped, in part, by birds that set fires to catch their lunch. One more thing about what it took for this discovery to be confirmed. The researchers who published the 2018 paper did not find the Firehawks by watching bush. They found them by listening to the people who had always known they were there. The research process, ethno-ornithological fieldwork, conducted from 2011 to 2017, involved sitting with Aboriginal elders and rangers and firefighters and asking them what they had seen. The knowledge was already there, complete, specific, identifying the exact species, the exact behavior, the exact circumstances. It had been there for 40,000 years, embedded in ceremonies and songs, and the accumulated observation of generations of people, living in intimate contact with the land and everything on it. Western science looked at that knowledge and, for most of its history, classified it as mythology. Something poetic and culturally significant, but not literally true, not empirical, not real in the way a published study is real. The 2018 paper did not discover the fire. It confirmed what Aboriginal Australians had always known. And in doing so, it raised a question that goes well beyond birds and fire and the boundaries of tool use. How much knowledge, specific, practical, ecologically significant knowledge about the behavior of the natural world, exists in indigenous traditions around the globe that Western science has not yet confirmed because it has not yet asked? The Firehawk was always there. In the story, in the ceremony, in the sky above every bushfire in northern Australia for 40,000 years. Science just finally looked up. If this story changed how you think about what non-human animals are capable of, or about what indigenous knowledge has always been telling us, share it, because the Firehawk does not need our validation. It never did. It was setting fires and catching prey while our ancestors were still learning to write. What we needed was the humility to listen to the people who had been watching. Subscribe, because the true stories are always the ones we were told a long time ago and only just started believing.